Well, good morning and welcome to Coffee with the Pastor. Um, Hope you've got a good cup of coffee as we begin this Monday. We had a good day yesterday dedicating our building. All of you who went to that, I appreciate it. And today we are looking at Jesus. They're heading down to Jerusalem. Mark has them going right down the Jordan Rift Valley, which is right beside the Jordan River. They're going to go all the way towards the Dead Sea. They're going to catch Jericho and they're going to go up the mountain. And we'll see this as we go. But they have a couple of interesting things going down the Jordan Rift Valley. He stops to teach and crowds gather around him. I don't know if these are maybe pilgrims going to Jerusalem because it is Passover time. But he stops and teaches. And then the Bible teaches in verse 13 of Mark chapter 10, people were bringing little children to Jesus to have him touch them. But the disciples rebuked them. When Jesus saw this, he was indignant. He said to them, "Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of God belongs to such as these. I tell you the truth, anyone who will not receive the kingdom of God like a little child will never enter it." And he took the children in his arms, put his hands on them, and blessed them. The people were bringing the children to Jesus. He was taking them in his arms. He was blessing them. And the disciples, for some reason, decided this is something Jesus didn't want to do or he shouldn't be doing. And so they started trying to keep people from bringing children to Jesus. And Jesus scolds them. He says, "Let the little children come to me. Let the little children come." There's something I think that we have to realize. There's a statement made around churches a lot today that I want to challenge. A lot of times we talk about, children are the future of the church. According to the Bible, children are the church right now. If you don't have children in your church, you really don't have much of a church. I remember when we were in our building, as we were repurposing, we had to have the children meet in rooms next to ours. It wasn't very soundproof. We couldn't get the doors right. And children are noisy. And I remember that the children's church time was going on while I was preaching. And I had someone come to me after the service and said, I heard the children all the time you were preaching. And I looked at this person. I said, "Well, I heard them too." And then I went back and said, "And isn't it great?" I said, "Because the only alternative is for us not to have children, and that would be a pity." And that person looked at me and was nice. He said, "Well, I never thought about it that way." And I'm glad that they recanted and realized what they were saying. But it is important to have children around us, to have children there, to have children perform. The other thing is I was struck by how that the people were bringing their children to Jesus. I'm disturbed by a lot of things that's going on in our society, but one of the things I'm disturbed in the church about is what I have seen happen since I've been pastoring for a little over 40 years. When I first started pastoring, everybody brought their children to Sunday school. People who didn't go to church would drop their kids off to go to Sunday school. Today, however, I'm seeing a different attitude. First of all, I see some of our most best members, regular members, their kids get into these sports programs. And they have games every Sunday, and they're very seldom in church. And if you know me, I love sports. When I was a kid, I loved to play sports. I played sports for a long time. I played into college. I played softball years after that. I've loved golf and tennis. I love sports. But I want to tell you something. To take a child and put them in a sports team where they're playing every weekend and not getting their spiritual development, not learning about the Bible, not learning some things, I think is dangerous. I think I think it's a shame. I think that we need to be bringing our children to Jesus and learning about Jesus. I think it's very important. And I would encourage you parents to be very cautious about that. I'm not saying never do it. I let my son play on an AAU basketball team. But I think it's very important for us to really consider, is this really the most important thing for my child? I've had people come up, especially some of these girls' softball teams, and the parents would say, well, my daughter's going to get a scholarship. And I got to looking at all the money they were spending because their whole families would travel on the weekends and stay in the hotels and all the expenses. I'm thinking if they would just save the money that they're spending on this, they would probably have enough to put her through any college they wanted to. But I just do think people ought to think through bringing their kids to church. I was kind of shocked during COVID. Obviously, our senior adults needed to stay away. But a lot of people were afraid to bring their children to church, and I don't, I think it's very important to bring your children to Jesus. And I make no apology because I know that at our place, at our church, they're taught about Jesus, and Jesus is lifted up, and it's important. And it's also important because children show us the way. Jesus said in verse 15, I tell you the truth, anyone who will not receive the kingdom of God like a little child will never enter it. We're reminded by having children around us about how we're to receive God the Father. I hope that if you have children, you'll be bringing those. If you got grandchildren, you'll be bringing those. It's important. It's important for us to bring them to Jesus. It's important for us to realize and be around children because they remind us about what the kingdom of God is like. Well, tomorrow we'll continue the journey on down to the Jordan Rift Valley, going to Jerusalem for Passion Week that Jesus is going to have, that Mark lays out for us, and we'll study another event that happened yesterday on the way tomorrow. So you have a blessed day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye now.